Today we are going to train on the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. This involves I-9 forms and employment documentation verifications. This act includes employment eligibility, employment verifications, and hiring practices. In this training session, we will cover the act and provide a basic understanding of I-9's and what is required of the employer. I will speak to the record keeping that is needed to be completed. In addition, we will speak about the rights of employees under this act and what penalties occur as a result of violations. And keep in mind that the training is revolved around what is required of the company and you as leaders. It is important to understand what the Act addresses and protects. There are three main issues that the Act enforces, including addressing employment eligibility, verifying identity of individuals beginning employment, and the Act enforces anti-discrimination during these processes. The first issue, addressing employment eligibility, involves where employers in the United States are allowed to only employ individuals that can legally work within the United States. Undocumented or unauthorized workers are not allowed to be legally employed. Part of this process is verifying the identity of all employees working for the company. It is the responsibility of the employer to determine and document whether an individual is able to be hired by obtaining the appropriate documentation to verify their identity. Lastly, the Act enforces anti-discrimination, which means individuals can't be discriminated against during these processes. Let's look at how this process works. An I-9 form is filled out by each individual on their first day of employment. Employees have up to 3 business days to prove their identity with documentation. The I-9 instructions list specifics in regards to what documents can be used. A company is not able to tell an employee which documents to provide. Section 1 of the I-9 form is filled out by the employee and includes the following: the employee's name, their physical address, date of birth, social security number, the option to put down an email address and/or a phone number. They're required to provide their citizenship status, their signature, and the date that the form was completed. The form must be filled out by the employee carefully and completely. It is then the responsibility of the employer to complete the rest. The employer is responsible for collecting the documents that identify the employee and making copies of these. An employer should ensure that they meet the requirements of the I-9 documentation and the IDs are unexpired. Then Section 2 of the I-9 form needs to be completed. This includes documenting the IDs provided and certifying that the documents are accurate. There is also record keeping associated with I-9s in this act. The employer is required to have an I-9 for each current employee, along with supporting documentation to verify their identity. In addition, an employer must keep I-9s on file for terminated employees for either 3 years or a year after their termination, whichever one is longer. The Immigration and Nationality Act also provides rights to employees. If an individual is a United States citizen or a legal alien authorized to work in the United States, they are protected from discrimination in the hiring process. This means these individuals can't be discriminated against or discharged based on their national origin or their citizenship status. There are penalties involved for not appropriately following the Act. There are penalties associated with improper or incomplete documentation of the I-9s. Employers are subject to a $110 fine for each piece of information that's missing. In addition, hiring unauthorized workers will result in fines, along with possible imprisonment. And lastly, employers who discriminate against those who are not or who are able to legally work in the United States due to national origin or citizenship status can face penalties and sanctions as well. In conclusion, you should understand what the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 is, what it protects, and what's involved for you as a leader and for the company. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take those now. Thank you.